Welcome into the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. My name is Nick. Welcome back to the show. Let's have some fun today. We've got a lot going on. I'm going to be starting off addressing my Kris Byrant comments from last week because I got some heat for that, so I want to address that. And then we're going to be diving into a lot of early spring training. This was the first week of spring training is wrapping up, and kind of just getting into how the Rockies have been structuring things, how, who's to look out for, and then we're going to be talking about Zac Veen and some of the other young guys, and then we're also going to dive into the MLBPA Players Association as far as Tony Clark's resigning, and then also Bruce Meyer being promoted in the wake of that, and what that means for the MLBPA, especially with the upcoming negotiations that are happening practically as we speak. So let's dive into that. Let's have some fun. So starting off, I wanted to address my comments on Kris Byrant because I got some heat for that. First off, by the way, I'm all for feedback. You want to come talk to me? You disagree with something that I say? Let's talk. I'm here for it. I'm here to discuss why I said something, or how I could have said something better, whatever. I'm all for it. Name calling, come on, guys. Like, you don't need to be doing that. If you wanna come discuss, my Twitter is in the bio. I put my if for the people on YouTube, the writing on my hand, that's from my other job. But my Twitter is in the bio every single episode, so if you want to come talk, you know where to find me, and leave a comment. I'll try to respond. You want to talk, let's talk. But name calling's not necessary. But last week I talked about Kris Byrant being put on the 60-day IL, and that's why it's not a surprise. And then I kind of went into how this is practically the most disastrous signing. Well, it's literally the worst signing in Rockies history and practically Major League Baseball, if not Major League Baseball. Quite frankly, I would say it's the worst signing of Major League Baseball. Kris Byrant was signed to a $182 million contract for 7 years. And he has only played 170 games, give or take, during his stint with the Rockies. So, yeah, actually less than that. No, I'm doing the math correctly. 170 games. He has only played 170 games in 4 years. And the Rockies have seen none of the production. Now, I know that doesn't totally tie into the comment that I got a lot of heat for. The comment that I got a lot of heat for was I said signing Kris Byrant was more of a baseball or a PR move than it was a baseball move. Now, I'm looking at Kris Bryant's stats right now. Yes, in 2021, between Chicago, when he was still with the Cubs, and then when he got traded to the San Francisco Giants, he had an 835 OPS, a 481 slugging, a 353 OBP, and a 265 batting average. You're looking at average to above average stats. And yeah, did he help a little bit in the playoff run that the San Francisco Giants had? Absolutely. He absolutely helped. I am not going to deny that, and you will never hear me deny that. However, when he hit free agency, because at that point, it was either sign him to a long-term deal or let him hit free agency. He hit free agency. And the San Francisco Giants, it is widely known that the San Francisco Giants were not looking to bring back Kris Bryant. They knew he had other suitors, and they knew what his number was going to be was way higher than what they wanted to pay him. Could they have paid him? Absolutely. Absolutely, they could have paid him, but they did not want to. And there were a handful of other teams involved outside of the Rockies. The Rockies shelled out a superstar, practically a superstar contract for a player that, yes, 2015, 2016, 2017, unbelievable player. He was one of my favorite players during that time frame. When he was with the Chicago Cubs, he was one of my favorite players. I really thoroughly enjoyed watching him. Now, here's the reason why I say it was still a PR move, not a baseball move. One, the Rockies did not have a big-name player at the time. They did not. The 2021 Rockies had Elias Diaz, CJ Cron, Brendan Rodgers. Yeah, they had Trevor Story, but Trevor Story practically was on his way out at that point. Like his time with the Rockies was done. You had Brian McMahon, Raimel Tapia, Garrett Hampson, Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon is a big name player. He absolutely is, but at that point he was not the Charlie Blackmon of old, and also he was on the decline. And he is not the superstar player that everybody thinks of. Is he an unbelievable player? Absolutely. Charlie Blackmon absolutely is. And then they had Josh Fuentes, Dom Nunez, Sam Hilliard, Connor Joe, Chris Owings, Alan Trejo. These guys aren't, they're big leaguers, but they're not going to make a statement. They didn't make a statement. I mean, you're looking at negative WARs, you're looking at, 200 some odd plate appearances with 189, 215, 234, batting averages that are just less than par. And so the Rockies needed to do something, especially after the absolutely disastrous Nolan Arenado trade, where the Rockies paid somebody else to take Nolan Arenado at that point because of what Bridich did to essentially crumble the relationship between Nolan Arenado and the Rockies. Jeff Bridich absolutely ruined. Well, Dick Monfort played a hand in that too, but Jeff Bridich absolutely ruined what they had with Nolan Arenado. So fast forward to 2021, the Rockies needed a statement to show that they have washed their hands clean of Nolan Arenado and to show that they are trying to at least be committed. The move at the time did not make sense. Why are you bringing in, for a team that is not ready to compete? The 2021 Rockies were not really ready to compete. They finished the year 74 and 87. Yes, they finished fourth in the NL West, but they did not come in stating that they were ready to compete. Even though they were still under the whole not rebuilding delusion from Dick Monfort. Like they were still under that complete delusion, unlike they are now. So you go into that and you sign a player that nobody else was going to sign to this contract. Nobody else was. Yeah, Kris Bryant probably also looked at this as a chance to stat pad with playing at altitude, playing at Coors Field, where you have one of the biggest outfields, if not the biggest outfields in the major leagues. And then you also have the fact that you could play at altitude and hit home runs easier than you can at most other ballparks. So Kris Bryant was looking at this as, I'm getting a fat paycheck, and I could probably stat pad for my career. Which, great for him. I ain't mad at him. I honestly, I was happy that he got paid. I was happy for him. But for the Rockies, it did not make sense. It made no sense. You already had a relatively good first baseman in C.J. Cron. Was he a world beater? No. But at the time for where the Rockies were, a very, very serviceable player. Absolutely serviceable player. So you're coming in here looking at this. I mean, C.J. Cron had a 3.4 WAR in 2021 with 142 games, 547 plate appearances with 470 at-bats. He had a 281 batting average, which at this point, a 281 batting average is more of like a 305 batting average from 25 years ago. And C.J. Cron had a 905 OPS. You weren't bringing in Kris Bryant to play right field. Yeah, he can play right field, but that was not Kris Bryant's strong suit. Kris Bryant's strong suit was always in the infield when he played third base and second base. Mostly third base. So for the Rockies, this was a move that really did not need to be made other than to say we have washed our hands clean of the Nolan Arenado deal. I get his stats. I absolutely get his stats. You can call me whatever you want, and you can look at it purely stats, sure. But look at the bigger picture of where the Rockies were. The Rockies did not need to make this move. They had no reason to make this move other than to state that. I was hopeful for Kris Bryant, absolutely. I was hopeful. Hell, even after the first year, I said, well, maybe, go through an injury bug. Okay, let's, Kris, come on. Let's get into this. Let's show them what you were. I wasn't asking for 2016 Kris Bryant. I was asking for even 2021 Kris Bryant. Like something of that. And the Rockies have never gotten that, and they will never get that. So that's why I made that statement, and I still stand by the statement of the Rockies did it as a PR move. They never were doing it. Yes, stats played a part in it. I will agree with that. But it was Bill Schmidt coming in here, trying to put his stamp on things after the whole dumpster fire that Jeff Bridich was. It was Bill Schmidt trying to put his stamp on things, saying, hey, I signed this guy. I signed this big leaguer. Look at the money we are putting up to bring in a big league player, a big-time player, Kris Bryant. Everybody in the league knows. World Series champion in 2016 with the Chicago Cubs. And you had the NL MVP in 2016. So, yeah, stats-wise, sure, I support that. But the Rockies were not in the place. They were not in the place to sign Kris Bryant. It made no sense. It was a puzzling signing at the time, and even then, it just made no sense. So I appreciate your feedback. I do. But look at the bigger picture. I'm not just some fantasy baseball buff. I haven't played fantasy baseball in 3 years. I study the game and I study everything going on around it. If you want to call me out, but let's talk about it. Look at the bigger picture and look at the reason why don't just look at the stats. Look at where the Rockies were. And look at why. If Kris Bryant was all that, why didn't the Giants re-sign him? The Giants were trying to make a World Series push and really threaten the Dodgers. They damn near did it in 2021, and they absolutely could have done it in 2022. Why didn't they sign Kris Bryant then if they felt Kris Bryant was that guy? Now, granted, the money was a factor. But it also was, he was not the Kris Bryant of old then. Yes, I see his stats. You can point to his stats all day long. I agree with you. I agree with anybody who will tell me that. Absolutely. I mean, with San Francisco alone, he had a 262 batting average with a 444 slugging, 788 OPS. Yeah, absolutely. He also had 113 OPS plus. Great. I love that. I do. I look at that stat and I would be doing backflips just at those stats alone. As a long time, as a person who covers the Rockies and still technically Rockies fan. Yeah, the stats alone I would be excited about, but I'm not going to sit here and also say that this wasn't a PR move. Because it absolutely was. It was 80% a PR move, 20% a baseball move. Both can be true. But what is the bigger slice? That is what I'm getting at. That is what I'm trying to bring this all to. So, you can still disagree with me if you want to. But look at everything. Look at everything. Then let's talk. That's just my 2 cents. But, alright. Now let's actually get into Rockies spring training. So, this spring training for the Rockies is looking a lot different. This is Warren Schaeffer's first year as full-time manager, and he's doing things a little bit different with kind of how the Rockies are structuring. I've been hearing, because I'm not down there, obviously. I want to be down there. If I could, oh man, I would be. But reading a lot of reports from Patrick Lyons, Patrick Saunders, and Kyle, I forget his name, I apologize, but he's with the Denver Gazette. All of those guys who are down there right now at spring training, they're talking about how, so Bud Black used to have the whole team together for certain workouts. So, we're going to work on fielding, we're going to work on hitting. Everybody does this. That's not the case with Schaeffer. Schaeffer is splitting everybody up into groups, and they're using multiple fields where you're gonna have outfielders doing outfield things. You're gonna have, you're gonna have this group doing hitting. You're gonna have this group doing, XYZ. Like, everybody is spread out doing different things. And it's more, I think it's interesting, and a lot of people have brought a lot of positive feedback on it, as far as this is kind of the new age of doing spring training, and it's to kind of really hone in on more focused skills than just as an overall team. Not saying Bud Black was a horrible manager. I don't think so. I think Bud Black took the Padres to the playoffs. He took the Rockies to the playoffs his first 2 seasons. I have a lot of respect for Bud Black. I absolutely do. I'm very intrigued and very excited about this new age practicing that they're doing down in Scottsdale. And I'm actually going to be reading up more on this and seeing what added benefit is going to come of this. I hope a lot. I really do hope a lot. And one thing I also loved about Warren Schaeffer was one of his first press conferences, he came in and said, "All right, I'm laying it out here, putting all the chips in, and last year's behind us. Done. No more talk. The 119 loss season is over with. We're not going to talk about it ever again. It's time to move forward. It's time to continue on." I love that. I absolutely love that. And I'm all for it. I am absolutely all for that. I think any longtime Rockies people, yeah, last year stung. Last year stung a lot. Yeah, I mean, God, I know it stung a lot because I watched 120, 130 games. So I know how much it stung. And I can't even imagine how much it felt for those guys. Yeah, I get it. I absolutely do. But I appreciate him just wanting to move on. And then another thing that I'm really excited to talk about is Zac Veen. I saw a picture of Zac Veen before, because there's this picture floating around, and it's a small video. There's also a video as well of him in the batting cages in down in Scottsdale. If I for a second was like, is that Zac Veen? He looks completely different. I mean, when he came in, when he was in the majors, when he got called up to the majors, he was 202 pounds. He was skinny. Like, he was pretty thin. Speedy, and I hope he still has that speed. I really do. But he was thin. Now, the dude put on 45 pounds of good weight. Is it all muscle? I don't know. A lot of it is muscle. The dude is pretty jacked. And reading the article that Thomas Harding and a couple of other people came out with, I think it was mostly Thomas Harding had like the bulk of it, about his addiction, his drug addiction struggles, which honestly, hats off to the Rockies for keeping everything in-house, keeping everything quiet. Like, nobody knew about Zac Veen's struggles. Yeah, you saw the on-field struggles, absolutely, but we never saw the off-field struggles. And I'm really happy with the Rockies that they actually took the time, held on to him, and were like, no, we're going to get you through this. We're going to help you, and we're going to help you become the player that you are. The flashy purple hair is gone. The facial hair is gone. Like, he's a completely different person. The dude is like no joke right now. Like I see clips and I see film from the Rockies spring training, what's going on right now, and whenever I see Zac Veen up to bat or doing fielding drills, it takes me a second. Like, I'm like, is that really him? And I'm not gonna just sit here and just gush over Zac Veen because he was, I mean, he still is because he's technically still a prospect, but just because he's my favorite prospect in that entire system. I was paying attention to him down in Spokane and all the way through Double A with Double A Hartford and then Triple A Albuquerque, and then obviously getting up to the majors. But just as a human himself, I'm really happy for it. I'm really happy to see that he is changing everything around. And I was watching his swing, and it seems he's really lowered his hands to bring more power and to really drive the ball. I really hope that brings a lot of good stuff. I really do. And I really hope that Zac Veen can turn into the player that everybody saw down in Single A, down in Double A, even in Triple A. He was lighting it up certain nights. So I really hope that he can come back and be what we hope. But most of all, I'm just happy that he is sober and he is getting on the right path and he is getting healthy and he is, because that's a rough thing for anybody to go through. Like, even if this wasn't Zac Veen, say it was Jaden Hill or Brody Brecht, or name a prospect, I would still be saying the exact same things. Not just because, for everybody who knows me, not just because it's Zac Veen. It's just because of him as a person. I'm really happy for that. And then also, another player that's been kind of fun to watch, the clips I've been able to see, is Sugano. He's gained a lot. He's gaining some eyes. I mean, the Japanese media, they're gonna follow their guys around. I mean, whether it's Ohtani, Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki, I mean, not quite to the level of that. I mean, I've seen the videos of when Shohei Ohtani is doing a bullpen session. It's worse than, I mean, you could think of, I'm not this old, but because this was well before my time, but like you could think of Woodstock with how everybody was crowded together. Think of that. Like it's a madhouse when people go to watch Ohtani, but there's still a pretty significant Japanese media following that came out for Sugano. And also there's a lot of other media that were out there for Sugano. And he was one that he's a dog. And Quintana as well. Jose Quintana from, hold on, Padres, I think. No, that's wrong. But the Mets, sorry, I knew that. I'm dumb. But the the fact that these guys are coming in, are they, again, like I covered last week, are they going to be world beater pitchers? No. But they're different. They're different. And I love this approach that the Rockies are doing where they're bringing in veteran solid pitchers to test out their new theories. You've heard Warren Schaeffer, you've heard Walker Monfort talk about these new, you've even heard Kyle Freeland talk about these new wacky ideas that the pitching staff want to implement. You can't do, if you really want to try this stuff out, you can't do that to a prospect. You can't do that to a fresh young guy coming into the majors. If you want to test it out, you got to test it out on a veteran. You got to test it out on a pitcher who's been doing it a while. So that, one, they have the confidence to do it, but they also have the arm and the arsenal to really test it. And they're not worried about messing up certain things, messing up stats or messing up, aspects of their career with trying new stuff. A new guy is going to be worried about that. With a lot of these veterans, you don't have to worry about that. So I'm really excited to see how these new ideas come out with these veteran pitchers, with Sugano, Lorenzen, Quintana, even Freeland. Freeland actually falls under that category as well because he is the 10-year outside of maybe Senzatella. Maybe I think he's older than Senzatella, maybe not. But that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's what I'm really excited about. So, yeah, I hope it works. I hope that the Rockies get what they're looking for when it comes to these pitchers. But this is what it's about, and I'm really excited that they're also bringing in a veteran presence for these young guys, not only to help teach them, but also to help test them. Make them earn that spot. It's not just say, I'm happy to be here, I'm getting called up. No, you gotta earn it. Be better than this veteran pitcher or a veteran player that we signed. Be better than him. Be better than Castro. Be better than Lorenzen. Be better than Quintana. Be better than Sugano. Be better than these guys. This is this has been probably the busiest offseason in at least 5 years for the Rockies. So the fact that the Rockies are out here actually doing this is really, really cool. And I hope it goes well. I hope it does. But it's going to be a wait and see game. But so far, they've done a lot right. They have absolutely done right. And I think some young guys to watch for with this new age stuff, and also just with these expectations of spring training. I think Brody Brecht is going to be a name to watch. One guy I'm kind of interested about is Willie Castro. He's going to be a fascinating one. And then for me, I'm trying to think of another young player that I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see Jimmy Herget. I mean, he's not totally a young guy, but I'm excited to see Jimmy Herget really get into his own. Tanner Gordon, I want to see him take the next step. He had a lot of great stuff coming into the season, or going through the 2025 season. He had a lot of great stuff. He had some down moments as well. And I want to see him in it. I want to see him in this next year, see if he can really hone in, come into his own, and be that leagues. So those are going to be some guys I'm going to be watching for during these spring training games. The Rockies have their first spring training game actually tomorrow, because I'm recording this on the 19th, and so the Rockies have their first spring training game tomorrow. So it's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun. I might even do a bonus episode on Saturday about the first Rockies spring training game. But yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see that. But now let's get into some of the big MLB news. Tony Clark, who has a scandal ahead of him with his inappropriate relationship with an employee, which actually I think it gets worse than that. Not only was he having an inappropriate relationship with an employee, the inappropriate relationship was with his sister-in-law. Yeah, I see why Tony Clark resigned. He's not looking so hot right now. And honestly, this couldn't have come at more of a worse time for the MLBPA, because they're starting to heat up negotiations. They're starting to heat up talks for the upcoming CBA. And they're practically without a director right now. I know they unanimously yesterday voted in Bruce Meyer, who he actually held positions with the with NHL. He held them with the NHL, NBA, and NFL players unions. So he has a long lawyer background. He has faced some criticism. I know in 2021, I know there were a handful of players that were trying to oust him, but Tony Clark stepped in and kind of gained some. This is going to be interesting, and I'm not saying it can't work for the Players Association, but with already a lockout guaranteed, and their executive director is not in place, essentially. Yeah, Bruce Meyer, from everything I've read, he's gonna pretty much be a darn good fill-in, but they don't have a permanent solution right now, and I don't know if they're gonna have a permanent solution in time for the meat of the talks going into spring training and into the season. I mean, we all know, regardless, there's going to be a lockout. Now, there's a significant chance that this gains pretty close to the notoriety of the 1994 strike, where it canceled the World Series. I don't think it'll get to that point. I hope it doesn't. For baseball fans everywhere, I hope it doesn't. Hell, as a baseball fan myself, I hope it doesn't. But there is a real chance that that could happen. There is a real chance that the players are going to get locked out. There's going to be a long strike. So with the executive director being not there. Now, the one thing that I will note is the owners of Major League Baseball have been fighting for a salary cap since the 1880s. over 100 years ago, the MLB the MLB owners have been seeking a salary cap since the 1880s. So track record wise, doesn't seem good. However, they do have the fans on their side right now, and they do have some leverage a little bit right now for the push for the salary cap, with Tony Clark being ousted and Bruce Meyer being brought in. Now, am I going to say a salary cap is going to fix all? No, not even close. I think it's a great step forward, and I think it's a great step in the direction of getting baseball back to being the number 1 or number 2 sport. I don't think it'll ever be number 1 probably ever again, just because the NFL is, they're printing money at this point. The NFL can do whatever they want, and the fans go, yep, we'll give you our money. Like that's... But baseball is really taken a falling off, and I really hope I hope that it can get back on track. I think the salary cap is a great starting point. Again, it's not going to fix all, because I'm curious to see if they do get a salary cap done, because there's no guarantee that will happen. But if they are able to get it done, what are the terms of the salary cap? Where is it capped out at? What is the floor? Because you can have a salary cap, but where's the salary floor? That's going to be also interesting, which I know the players are going to negotiate that a lot more heavily than they are going to negotiate the salary cap, because they're not going to go for the salary cap. Major League Baseball is, out of the big 4 sports, is the only one without a salary cap. Ish. I know the NBA has the whole luxury tax threshold, which is weird. I don't totally get that one, but I'm also not the biggest basketball person. Forgive me on that. But I'm very interested to see. I'm gonna be following this one closely as far as who they're actually going to name as the permanent executive director of MLBPA, and then who is and how they're going to stronghold this, because it's the 2027 season. There's the nail is all but in the coffin as far as the opening day. There's just going to be no way. There's going to be no way. The lockout, the strike is going to happen. It's absolutely going to happen, which is unfortunate, but it's not the first, probably won't be the last. So, yeah. And then I'm also going to quickly cover Max Muncy's comment talking about... Let me get his exact quote, because I don't want to come in here saying, calling him out without proper, talk. But he basically said that the salary cap is not needed, because what the owners basically have the ability to spend like the Dodgers do, but they're just not willing to do it. And that is a load of you know what. Because you look at the Dodgers, you look at the Yankees, you look at, I throw those guys out there all the time. But you could look at Houston Astros, you could look at the Mets. Look at what their TV deals are. Look at some of their merchandise contracts. Look at what a lot of their deals are compared to, I'm not even going to name the Rockies, but look at the Athletics. Look at the Marlins. Look at kind of Kansas City. Look at these smaller market teams that they don't have the deal that the Dodgers have. Hell, the Dodgers have a lucrative TV deal. It slightly puts the TV deal to shame of the Yankees. Who has that? Not the Marlins, not the Athletics. Like, they don't have that. Not Atlanta. They don't have that. So you're out here saying, "Oh, let me go in," or these owners just need to they just need to be willing to spend. They need to be willing to open up their pocketbook. Where's that money coming from? Yeah, they're billionaires, but there's also a business side. Now, I'm not supporting the billionaires 100% because I want the players to get paid. I want the players to get paid for what they're worth. Yeah, I can gripe and moan about it a little bit, yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm happy for the players. I'm happy that they're getting a nice chunk of the pie that these owners are getting. So I'm not going to complain. You're not going to hear me complain about players getting paid. I'm going to complain about how the Dodgers are doing it, how the Yankees are doing it, how the Mets are doing it, how the Phillies are doing it, i.e. name any other, top 5 team, top 10 team in spending, name any others. I'm not going to be mad about it to the player, but I'm going to be mad about it to the organization because it's constricting parity. There is no parity in baseball right now. There is none. There absolutely is none. And yeah, it's crazy, but yeah. That's kind of all I'm going to put on it, but I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I think I'm going to wrap this episode up. I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun talking about this episode, talking about all of this. Baseball season is in full swing. It is in full swing. Spring training games pretty much start tomorrow. Rockies start tomorrow. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun to have baseball back. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to covering this season. I hope you guys are going to tune in and are excited to follow the coverage. And yep, I hope you guys like and subscribe, and I will catch you guys next time. This was the Baselines to Sidelines podcast. Nick out.